how many 4-letter words can I use on that?
Don't get taken down. Figure it out. Like, find a way to not get taken down, even if there's a minute left.
Oh, Nick, I'm a cop guy, so I love cop wrestling.
We have an amazing culture within our program, and we build it. We don't buy it. We build it.
So I think that wrestling is the greatest sport on earth.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into On3 Wrestling. I'm your host, Nick Kosko, and with me today is my guy, Malik Amine, former Michigan wrestler and current analyst for Big Ten Network. Malik, good to talk to you, my man. I know there's a lot to go over this past weekend. We're in prime wrestling season now, mid-January. This is the coldest it can get all year, but this is the best time of the year for the Big Ten, especially in wrestling.
Yeah, man, it's always exciting to get into this part of the season. You kind of see over that, November and December, early season, and now I guess this is the best time to see who's tested, right? You go and you look at some of the recent matchups, and it's the most exciting time of the year, man. I love my job; it's amazing, and I get to do the best thing in the world, which is report wrestling.
That's right. We just chat about the best sport in the world. So we got to start with the biggest news of the weekend. Obviously, it was Penn State over Iowa. That was the marquee duel of the weekend in the Big Ten and across college wrestling. But Penn State's just on a different level right now. 32-3 over Iowa, winning 9 of 10 bouts. I don't want to say not many people saw that coming. I think a lot of people thought that this could be a possibility, but it just seems like the way Penn State took it to Iowa. Granted, they're not the number 2 team in the country, but it's still Iowa, still top 5 team. It's still Penn State, Iowa, but it just seems like Penn State is on a completely different level, even more so than recent years.
Yeah, Penn State, the thing about Penn State, and I think that people need to drill this idea into their head, is that, listen, they do get the best recruits. I think it's not only coaching. I think coaching is an important part of it, and you go look at, you can talk to Roman Young, Mark Hall, Aaron Brooks, any of those guys, they all say the same thing. There's no disparity in their answers that, their coaches take the pressure off. They're comfortable wrestling. There's no heated, obviously probably in the room, they're speaking, at TV talk, right? There probably is some disagreements in the room, but realistically, though you can see the way they wrestle, there's no pressure. So they do get the best guys, and they also do develop them. So it's not only, the coaching is the main, I'd say the main point, but I think when you put those two together, you get a program like Penn State, man. It's just, I can't believe that, you see a team like Penn State, Iowa get beat, I think it was 29-6 last year and then 32-3 this year. Mm-hmm. So you win 3 matches in the course of 2 years, and a prestigious program like Iowa. It's just unbelievable that what Coach Sanderson and staff is doing, especially after losing a guy like David Taylor. Kyle Dake's getting towards the end of his career. Kyle Snyder's getting towards the end of his career. So those guys aren't as, involved in the room, but it's crazy to see just the development of some guys. You have Marcus Blaze, you have Levi Haynes, you have Mitch Messenbrink. It's just like, you think that those guys can't get better, and yet they surprise you. You look at the Caliendo match, it's like, man, that was a close match in the NCAA finals, and Mitchell Messenbrink just absolutely dismantled them this weekend. So I just think with those guys, it's just, man, you think that the train's going to stop, and it just keeps going.
Is this more of a Penn State thing of just how good they are? I know people want to sound the alarm bells with Iowa, and maybe there is reason to be concerned with, sometimes maybe there's, there's stifling of development with some of the young guys at Iowa, or, the grad transfers aren't necessarily working out to this point of the season. Is this more of an Iowa problem, or is it just a product of they ran into a buzzsaw because Penn State has been doing this to no matter who they are facing week in and week out?
I think it's an identity issue. I think Iowa really needs to go back and find their identity, and I think that it's tough in this grad transfer world. So I give the coaching staff, the Iowa coaching staff, a lot of credit. Coach Brands, obviously with the Ndine situation, it's hard to go out and you see it, Teamer, a couple guys. It's they've gotten burned in the past, and for the Iowa coaching staff, it's not their fault. They're trying to put together the best team that they can. And there's a lot of coaches that don't like what they do, and that they're going out and getting grad transfers, but that's just the world we live in. Go look at the Indiana program. There's a reason why they're in the national title, is because they've gotten a lot of of good transfers. Mendoza, the Heisman winner, was a transfer from California. So if they're doing it in football, there should be no reason why you shouldn't do it in wrestling. But I think the problem that happens is that it's hard to build the culture. You kind of see it at, at other programs. I think Michigan struggles with that problem too, is that, you have guys that stay there for 1 year and then, the young guys are looking for leadership, and it's difficult. And, again, you got to give, Coach Vermette, you got to give Coach Ryan, all these coaches a lot of credit, because it's just a new world that they're walking into. They're not going to get it right the first year. They're not going to get it right the 5th year, right? Penn State's lucky that they've been dominant for this long, is that, you can mix and match and piece guys together. And with the NIL era, Rocco Welsh is a great fit, but they've also had a great team to build off of, right? They're not worried about losing 6 guys or 5 guys. And I think that's just the problem that a lot of these programs have struggled with, is that just the replacing and trying to mesh together that culture when you have a guy that wrestled at North Carolina for 5 years, right? And now he's coming and he's at Michigan for 1 year,
Right.
Locke McNeil, and then he's gone. So you just it's hard to build culture off that way, but it's a difficult problem, because now you're trying to get a freshman coming in that hasn't had any experience versus a 3-time All-American, which it's no brainer. I'll take the 3-time All-American over the unproven freshman,
Right.
But it's just, I think Iowa, Michigan, a lot of these schools, I think even you go look at, I was like Illinois or like Wisconsin, it's hard. It's hard to build a culture off NIL, and I think it's you're not going to get it right the first time. You're not going to get it right the 10th time. I think eventually coaches will kind of start to figure out the pieces, But I think it's Iowa's issue is that you have these guys, and are they the right fit? You don't know yet, and then you might end up with a teamer. The guy wrestles 1 and 2 at the NCAA tournament, and Iowa spent all this money to get him there, and they don't want to get burned. So it's in Iowa's defense, culture wise, I think they got to get back to what makes you put on that black Sunday, right? And it hurts me to say as much as I do that I am a huge Iowa fan. I loved Iowa. If I wouldn't have went to Michigan, I probably would have went to Iowa. I loved growing up. I loved Dan Gable. I have a good relationship. He has a good relationship with my dad. And I was always a huge fan of the Mark Ironside. You go look at McElravy, all those guys. So I really want to see Iowa come back with a vengeance and get back to that Iowa style wrestling. And it's just, you haven't really seen it over these past couple of years.
No, and that's a shame considering this team. And again, I know it was the COVID shortened season, but that it was a year. They're only about 4 or 5 years removed now from a national title where they unseated.
They still won a national title. I can't take that away from them. They still did what a lot of people couldn't do, is, and they beat Penn State too. So
it's certainly there. They're one of the few that have been able to do it. Obviously, Penn State has over, now 80 wins, or I think it's at 80 or 81 consecutive dual meet victories. One more on Penn State. I'm curious to get your take on it again, because you wrestled at this level. I've asked numerous people as to, we can credit the coaches, you can credit the culture of Penn State, you can credit the room, the arguably the best room in the world in terms of wrestling rooms. But guys like Marcus Blaze, PJ Duke, they're coming on so strong right away. You can use Josh Barr as an example as well. When he was a freshman. Well, right. I mean, these guys are just so darn good right away. But in the case of guys like Blaze and Duke, we saw Blaze take third at the Olympic trials in 2024. PJ Duke was obviously the senior team world team member this past year in 2025. He beat Yanni at Final X, and I think all people remember him pinning him in match number 3. But because these guys are just so good right away, where they're wrestling at the senior level in high school before they even step onto a college mat, how I guess for the casual fan, how is that even possible? How are these guys that far along in their development before they even step foot in a college room, and now they're just taking it to pretty much everybody else in their weight class?
I'm just glad this wasn't going on when I was wrestling. I'm just happy. I'm happy that this wasn't happening, because I don't know what would happen if my dad saw me lose to a high schooler. But all jokes aside, it's just I need to hammer the point home. They get the best guys. They do. Yeah. I mean, they're getting the number 2, number 3 guys. So it's not like they're developing guys that you haven't heard of. For every crazy story you hear about, Kassar was a good wrestler, but it's like, every Kassar story of a guy doesn't start for 4 years and he wins the national title. There's a Levi Haynes, there's a Messenbrink, there's, a Zane Rutherford, Jason Nolf, and you can go up and down their lineup. Roman Bravo Young. They're all top blue chip recruits. The thing that Penn State, I think, does, a lot of programs struggle to do, is just get the best potential out of those guys. You know, and we've talked about, you know, guys that, you know, haven't really shown up to their potential that were high recruits, and it's just Penn State doesn't have that problem, man. You just every guy that's going, and I said it on Friday. I said Marcus Blaze is everything and the other that we hoped him to be. You know, he goes to Drake Isle, returning, you know, NCAA finalist, and beats him at Iowa. Like, you know how hard that is as an 18-year-old to go to Iowa City and win. You know, and I think people need to give him a lot. PJ too, because like, oh yeah, he had a close match with Jordan Williams. Dude's a freshman, and he wrestled in Iowa City. Like, listen, Olympic trials does not have that many fans. I'm sorry to tell you guys. Freestyle, as much as I love it, there's like maybe your parents and a couple 100 fans in there. That's it. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
Iowa is packed. I mean, you're talking about basketball games sold out, and everybody is rooting against you. And PJ Duke and Marcus Blaze win. You know, I know they're highly recruited, but man, it's just so impressive to see that. And, you know, I said it on Friday. It's like, man, that's probably the toughest environment they're wrestling. And they rose to the occasion. I mean, you go to the NCAA tournament, you're going to hear "we are" all day. I mean, half the stadium is going to be Penn State. So it's going to be like a home duel for them. And I mean, they have risen to every test. And look at Marisola, same thing. You know, here comes a guy that got his butt beat last year when he came out of his red shirt. You know, and then next year he goes into Iowa and beats Ben Keeter. It's like, man, you know, it again, if I'm Ohio State, which I think Ohio State's probably the next team in line, is like, can they beat Penn State? I'm like, what are they doing that we need to do to get Divino? You know, do we need to get Buzakis? Do we need to get, you know, Karchler? Like, how do we get these guys ready come March to do the impossible, which is beat Penn State? So like, if I don't know if I think Iowa's got to go back to the drawing board. I don't think that Iowa can challenge Penn State this year. After that duel, it's going to be difficult. I think Oklahoma State's in the same boat. I think Ohio State is the only team this year that they got to look to the drawing board. Obviously, they don't want to come back and say, you know, and overlook anybody in the Big Ten because it's the Big Ten. But what do they need to do come March to do the impossible? Because I actually think that they're in a better position than Nebraska was last year.
Yeah, I think that could be the case. I remember talking to you ahead of the Big Ten tournament last year, or right after that tournament. You mentioned how Nebraska was going to be that, maybe not a sleeper team, but obviously, you know, the team that's going to make a lot of noise at the NCAA tournament. Sure enough, they finished second, of course.
And they had a horrible Big Ten tournament. They had a horrible Big Ten tournament. Horrible. I mean, Minto finished like 8th.
Yeah.
And he had to take a fourth.
Sure enough, All-American.
Yeah. I mean, Camden McDaniel, I mean, you can go down the lineup, but All-American's not going to cut it. You got to be in the finals. And Ohio State has the caliber. You got Divino, you got Buzakis, you got Mendez. I mean, shoot, Karchler can get there, you know.
Yep.
You know, Nick Feldman. I mean, you can go up and down their lineup.
Yeah. So on that note with Ohio State, because that duel is coming up soon. So when you look at Penn State, Ohio State, again, you know, Ohio State, I think people are remembering the National Duels Invitational. You know, they kind of set the world on fire to start the season, right? Ohio State. Now they brought back some guys that they shifted around some weights, obviously with Divino and Buzakis switching between 25 and 33. Brandon Cannon coming into his own right now at 57. You already mentioned Carson Hartzler, who I think we would forget about Carson Hartzler because you know, I think he's a 6th or 7th year senior at this point, but also he's been banged up pretty badly with, you know, knee and shoulder injuries over the last couple of years. He's 11-1 this season. When you look at, I guess, this match on paper, the way I mapped it out was maybe best case for Ohio State is, again, it is Penn State, maybe a 5-5 split, right? Because at this point, it seems like Penn State is going to have, 6 or 7 guys ranked number 1 at their respective weight classes. But when you look at it from, I guess I can ask you both, from a dual perspective and also a tournament perspective, I guess Ohio State has to be the biggest challenger to Penn State at this point. Because Oklahoma State seems like they can get there, but Ohio State might be more ready in your mind.
I think David Taylor has a 5-year plan. I think he knows his plan to take out his alma mater is not this year. I think he's building a tournament team for the next couple of years, and I think he knows that. If he can get it done this year, great. But I don't think that's his plan. You know, obviously he might disagree with me, but I think here's the thing. If I'm Coach Ryan, I excuse my language, but I don't give a shit about the duel. I'm not worried about beating Penn State head to head. I'm just not. You know, I'm worried about how do I raise a trophy like I did in 2014. How do I do that? You know, and I think was it 20? I think it was 2014, wasn't it, when they won?
2015 was when 2015 tournament was the tournament, was the championship game.
Yeah, close enough, but that's off the top of my head.
It's been over 10 years,
and every other year was Penn State. So, you know, how do I do that? You know, they had that Stieber team, and they're unbelievable. They had a bunch of All-Americans. I think their team is better suited now than it is then. You know, you got guys like Davino, you got Buzakis, you got Brandon Cannon. Oh my God, man, is that guy a machine? You have Karchler, you know, you have Patty Gallagher. I mean, you have so many guys, like you have so many tools in the tool shed. It's like, who's gonna be the guy? Like Davino, finals. Like I think he's a finalist. I think he's a guy that should get more respect. I mean, he's already got a lot of respect, but I'm like, dude, the kid's good. I mean, he's really good. Buzakis, can he do it? Right? Can he put it together? We've seen his caliber. You know, can he do it come March? Jesse Mendez, no question, right? He's Jesse Mendez. You know, you go look at 57, Brandon Cannon, right? Brandon Cannon, great Big Ten tournament, did an All-American last year. So like, can he do it? Right? You can go up and down, like Carson Karchla, another one that comes to mind. Listen, I have a soft spot in my heart because Moran was my coach growing up, but like Carson has not really had an opportunity to wrestle at 100%. He's always been hurt. So like, can he get through the season and can Coach Ryan manage the season to be like, listen, we're going to take a couple losses. We're going to sit you out some matches. We're going to be strategic. But the most important thing is we want you to be the guy to beat Levi Haynes this year because he can. We've seen it. Yeah, he can do it. I think he can, you know. And Levi Haynes has a lot to weigh on because he didn't make the finals last year. Like he's not the returning national champ anymore. That could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. We don't know yet. And then you go to Feldman. It's like Feldman just beat AJ Ferrari. It's like, you know, that he was the front runner. So, you know, Ohio State, realistically, in my mind, and I have 100% confidence that Coach Ryan is in the same bucket. It's like he's thinking about March. I like, hey, the dual season is dual season. He's got to be a head coach. He's got to take it year to, you know, week after week. But he's thinking, how do I put together the best team come March to do the impossible? Because I think they can do it. I really do. Is it probable? Probably not. I think probably Penn State does win it. But I think people are going to underestimate how good Ohio State is this year.
Yeah, it has similar vibes. And I actually look back at that 2015 tournament. Penn State actually finished sixth that year, by the way. It was just a wacky tournament. It was Ohio State. Edinburgh finished third that year. That was like the peak of Edinburgh.
That was
over the course of last.
Yep.
You're talking about a tournament that was absolutely wild that I think people can't really comprehend considering what we've seen over the last 5 to 7 years. So I wanted to switch gears, staying in the Big Ten, though, to your Michigan Wolverines. A very impressive weekend. They went on the road and beat Rutgers, and then they ended up beating Illinois in a close duel on Sunday as well. So back-to-back wins over quality Big Ten opponents. I was seeing some chatter about what they could do this year. I know you alluded to before how they've done a good job recruiting the young guys, but also they've been a popular destination for a lot of grad transfers. Obviously, Shane Griffith comes to mind a couple years ago. Lucas Davison, in terms of guys that are they're not one-hit wonders, but they're guys that are there for basically a stopgap year to kind of fill some holes in the lineup. And now that they have a little bit more of a mix this year, I've noticed, because you have guys like Tay Gadali up top, Lachlan McNeil, you already mentioned before, 3-time All-American from North Carolina. But then you have guys that I really was really impressed by, especially on Friday night against Rutgers, the Mantonona brothers, Cam Catcherbone. I mean, these guys are those are the ones that Sean Bourmet told me about last year. It's like, hey, just watch out for these guys. They might not explode right away this year in the lineup or in redshirt, but next year is when they're going to take those strides moving forward. What do you make of the Michigan Wolverines right now? I feel like they could have a stellar March by the time these guys get rolling through the Big Ten schedule.
Well, this is a team that's going to get better year over year. I think you look at the recruiting. I mean, they're getting the good guys. Unfortunately, it's like injuries. It's just plagued Michigan over the past couple of years. It's just unlucky. Right. But you go look at the recruits, right? You got a guy like Cooper Hilton that was going to come in and be good. Joe Adams, like there's so many. I mean, you got the two I can't remember his name. I'm going to butcher it. Alexian from the Californian Armenian kid who's going to be a stud coming in. I mean, Michigan knows after 2022 they had to reload, and that 2022 season, you go 2024, they finished with another trophy. Shane Griffith, obviously, Lucas Davison. I mean, you can go up and down. Will Lewan, I don't think Will Lewan actually All-American that year. I think it was 2023. But I mean that year, Austin Gomez. How did I forget about Austin? Sorry, brother.
Austin,
Austin's gonna kill me. No, but like Austin, then you go on the RTC side. You hire Alex Daringer, you get Rio Woods. You get Mason Paris to come back to practice him with the Bengals to come back to wrestling. So I mean, I think honestly, you got to. I know I'm hard on Michigan. I love Michigan to death. I mean, I don't know. You can see my wall over here, right? But it's I'm hard on them because I love them and I want Michigan to do well, and it's always hard to go on TV and when people ask me about Michigan, I wish they were in that conversation like when I was in school. We're always top 4, top 5 team, but I think that they're going to get there. I think that Coach Format has a plan to get there, and just I think people got to give them more time, and they're doing the right things on the RTC side, they're doing the right things on the college side. It's just unfortunately injuries has just really hurt them, man, and it's just like you're getting guys that Hayden probably should have been in the lineup last year, but he was hurt, right? And it's just difficult because he's wrestling a little more timid now because he had an injury, right? And then Gilcher comes back, tears his ACL. You have the Mantanona brothers. Bo was hurt last year and has to come back and makes a blood round where he wasn't 100%. And I really think that these guys are going to be ready. They always have been. Michigan has had sometimes a horrible season, and all of a sudden you get 3 All-Americans, 4 All-Americans. Who cares about the dual season? I mean, realistically, if I was a big proponent on changing it, what the heck are we doing with these duels, man? It's an individual tournament. Either do the national duels as a separate thing, and then do an individual tournament and bullshit count, or just get rid of the duels because duels don't make any. I mean, as a guy who's wrestled for 5 years in college. Like the duels never prepared me for wrestling at the Big Ten National Tournament. I don't even know why we do them. It's great TV. I guess we have to do it, but there needs to be more tournaments. At the first part of the season, it's like, man, you can't prepare to wrestle 5 matches unless you wrestle 5 matches. And I think that's the problem is like, these guys are cutting weight and cutting, for a 2 duel thing. And it's just a lot. It's hard on a lot of these guys. And, I got to give Michigan credit, man. It's just tough. It's very hard to do that because you're not prepared to wrestle out of Vegas. How are you prepared to wrestle out of Vegas? You haven't done it all year.
Yeah, I'm with you on the dual thing. I've been a proponent of the having the NCAA have a national dual meet championship right before the individual tournament. Just look at the New Jersey high school schedule. I said, there's your model. There you go. Problem solved for everybody.
They do a great job.
That's what I'm saying. You lead into the team postseason, then you have a couple weeks, and then it's 3 straight weeks of individual postseason district, regions, and states. But I digress. So obviously Michigan knocking on the doorstep, but maybe taking that next step. Either maybe they are a little bit early this March, or maybe it's next year where it's like, oh my God, watch out for Michigan again. The other team you alluded to, and then one more on the Big Ten here, Nebraska again, national runner-ups last year, historic season last year. They brought back obviously a loaded lineup. They're a very veteran laden lineup under Mark Manning. Of course, AJ Ferrari transfers in. Legal troubles aside, that seems to now be all good after last week.
He's good.
But when he's in the lineup, obviously that's a difference maker, regardless of what you think how his style translates to heavyweight. He's 7-1 this year for a reason. He's a hammer at heavyweight for a reason. So this team once again is loaded. They pretty much have all Americans up and down the lineup. But you mentioned before how Ohio State is that team that's going to be the biggest challenger to Penn State in the Big Ten, and obviously when it comes to the national tournament. What do you make of Nebraska this year? Is it just more of the same as last year, or is there going to be a difference? Maybe with a guy like Ferrari at the back end of the lineup.
Well, it's concerning after watching that Minnesota duel. It's either is Minnesota that good, or is Nebraska really? They didn't have Brock Hardy. There's a lot of what ifs in there. They didn't wrestle a lot of their good guys, but Lamer didn't wrestle. But I don't know, man. I love Mark Manning. I love Brian Snyder. I think that coaching staff. They're one of the best in college. It's just to do what they did last year is going to be difficult, and especially getting guys like McDaniel, Van D. Look at that 133 field again. It's going to be loaded. And McDaniel might have a better chance because 197 is a little bit weak this year, so he probably has a better chance to get on the podium. It's just to replicate success is always difficult for teams, and I think Nebraska did a really good job last year. And just this NIL era, how many years does Manning have left at Nebraska? Like, we don't know, this could be his last year. He could have another 10 years. You just never know. Yeah. Hopefully if I'm a Nebraska fan, I want him to stay there forever, but
right.
Eventually I think, Nebraska is gonna have to make that decision. But I think that the team has just been phenomenal over the past, I'd say like 10 years. You had Jordan Burrow. I mean, you have so many good guys that have came through that program, and what he's been able to do and coaching staff is going to do is nothing short of a miracle. It's like no offense to say, but who wants to go to Lincoln, Nebraska, right? Like there's nothing there, right? There's not recruiting wise. He's done a phenomenal job. I mean, realistically, like look at Minto. Look at Christopher Minto, freaking Cape Coral, Florida. He's not a blue chip. I wouldn't call him a blue chip recruit. And Tate, like, he won a national title, like national title. Nobody expected that. I mean,
No.
that alone, I have the greatest appreciation of that coaching staff to get a guy like. I mean, they probably believed it all the way. Ridge Lovett, like, I mean, Brock Hardy. I mean, you can go up and down the list. Like, I would say Nebraska's not getting, like, they're not getting the blue chip recruits. Like, I mean, they are, but like, they're not getting the number 1, number 2 guy, but they're getting,
Right.
maybe the number 20th guy, and he's winning a national title. Like
Yeah.
that's a lot more impressive, in my opinion. They're not winning it as a team, but I mean, to get a guy like Antrell Taylor and have him, win the national title, Ridge Lovett, Ridge Lovett was highly recruited, but like, Minto speaks out, McDaniel, like, you can go up and down. Van D, I mean, Caleb Smith. I mean, you can go up and down the list. Caleb Smith wasn't All-American until he went to Nebraska.
Yeah.
He didn't All-American at App State.
Yeah.
So it's really impressive to see what they do. It's going to be hard to replicate it this year because I think Ohio State's going to be that team, probably going to be the door stopper in a lot of those quarterfinal, semifinal matches. We're going to see a Nebraska-Ohio State matchup where realistically last year there was, really wasn't a challenging team that had, stacked guys at those weights. But you go look at Ohio State, they got the number 1, number 2, number 3, number 5 guy at every weight class. So
Right.
you're going to be seeing them early in the tournament. But, Nebraska's probably, with, obviously, you got to give Iowa State credit too, outside of the Big Ten. So, like, they're probably going to be in there too, and Oklahoma State as well. So, Nebraska really does have to climb the ranks if they want to get back on the podium this year as a team. I think they can do it, but it's going to be more difficult than it was last year.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you mentioned Minto, 13-2 this year, in the conversation for that 174-pound title. I know Levi Haynes is on a planet by himself right now, but Minto took 4th last year where probably nobody actually expected that. And, of course, now he moves up a weight and looks even better. Outside of the Big Ten, and this has been a huge conversation over the last couple of weeks because it's pretty much unprecedented in college wrestling where you have an early enrollee wrestling right away in Jax Forrest over at Oklahoma State. We already mentioned David Taylor before and how you said he has this 5-year plan for the Cowboys. Now, granted, they had 3 finalists last year, made a run last year, 2 national champs. It could very well have that same type of effect this season as well, but they're much younger this year, but really, really impressive, especially when we talk about the freshmen that are so good right off the bat. Forrest very well could be one of them alongside other freshmen in that Oklahoma State lineup. He's 4-0 this season or 5-0 at this point. He just won the Cyclone Open, wrestling attached. He made his dual debut the other week. The dude was in high school 3 weeks ago, and we knew how good he was. Top recruit overall in his high school recruiting class. But he decides to graduate early. He enrolls early, and he's wrestling already. And if this is any indication, wrestling this many matches already, just trying to beef up that record, he might be the guy for the postseason. So 1, should Jax Forrest wrestle right away right now and, use his first year of eligibility? And 2, if he does, based on what we saw at 133, we know how loaded it is. Lucas Bird at the top. We mentioned all the other freshmen, Marcus Blaze among them. Can Jax Forrest win a national title this March?
Make me think for a second because I'm like, there's two ways you could look at this.
Yep.
If I am Jax Forrest, and I know this is he's cut through him. Miles, we did some work with him in the past with athletes, and got to talk to him. But he wants to be the best, and he wants to beat the best people. So, like, from his perspective, he wants to wrestle, no question. Yeah. But if I'm Coach Taylor, and I'm thinking about my plan long term, I have to get in that coaching room with Kennedy and and coaching staff and think, can we do it? Can we put together a team to do it this year? If not, we're wasting our time. Right. Because you saw Landon Rabideau, it's like, he's great, but goes and loses to Antrell Taylor, not unbeatable. You have D Lockett, another one. Goes and loses a close match at the national duels, and it's difficult for me to have a perspective on this because you have to look at it from 2 different ways. What's best for Jax Forrest and what's best for Oklahoma State. I think what's best for Jax Forrest is wrestle right away because, for him, he's got nothing to lose. I know he wants to beat Marcus Blaze, and he wants to be the number 1 guy. He wants to be that guy in the class that's, why aren't you talking about me? You're talking about Marcus Blaze. Like, hello, I'm here. I'm the one that made the world team, and finished 5th at the Worlds. But I think there's no right or wrong decision here. I know I'm playing Switzerland, but I think for Jax Forrest, the best thing would be to wrestle for him. For Oklahoma State, I don't think so. I think you're going to have a better team next year. You're going to be young. You're really not losing anybody. Your team's going to be really, really good. I mean, shoot. I mean, you're going to have Spratley, probably Forrest, and you're going to have, Sergio Vega. I mean, you're just going to be loaded. I mean, and D Lockett, and you're going to get more recruits coming. I mean, the next Penn State is Oklahoma State, no question. If anybody tells you otherwise, they're crazy. I know what David Taylor's taking the exact system he learned at Penn State and replicating at Oklahoma State. I talked to Cameron. It's no different, and you look at Cameron, a guy that did an All-American, was losing his confidence and goes and takes 8th at an absolutely loaded weight class for a lot of guys did an All-American. And Caleb Fish All-Americans that did an All-American ever in the past. Freaking Wyatt does the impossible. Dean Hamidi does the impossible, that nobody's been able to do, which is take out Keegan O'Toole other than David Carr. So he has a secret serum. It's just, can he be patient enough to be like, listen, Penn State's probably going to win it this year. Ohio State might take them out. That's obviously a lot of things have to happen for Ohio State to win. But in 2027, this Oklahoma State team is going to be the number 1 team in the country. And is that what he wants? Does he have the delay of gratification? Like, I know Jax Forrest is amazing. Let's get him his 4 or 5 matches. Let's keep his red shirt and let's unleash him next year. And then we're going to have him for 4 years and he's going to be dominant. It's going to be maybe him and Blaze and Davino in that mix. Bird's going to be gone, and then you have Sergio Vega. It's like, what do you do with Vega? I mean, he's another great guy, that is going to be a machine. I mean, he's got nothing to lose here. Can he take out Jesse Mendez? We'll see. He can have a great season and all of a sudden March comes around and flop. He's a young guy. You never know what can happen. Look, but you also don't want, what to happen with Henson. Henson hasn't been back to the final since he beat Austin Gomez. So it's sometimes it's a difficult decision as a coach, because if you have early success can you replicate that success every year? Versus maybe unleashing him this year and he doesn't have the great success and that motivates him to have success the next 3 years. It's just, it's a tough decision, man. I don't know. I really don't have one. I couldn't tell you.
It's a very interesting 2-pronged answer as you brilliantly laid out right there, where it's like you want to strike while the iron's hot if you're Jax Forrest, and I feel like he wants to. Perhaps David Taylor wants to. He got him to enroll early, so maybe the plan was always, hey, if you're this good right away, after we give you measuring stick matches over the first couple of weeks, we are going to let you go right away. Do you play the long game though with the team title down the road, or do you just do it right now because there's no guarantees in terms of injuries, transfers, whatever the case may be, a year or two from now? So it's going to be a fascinating decision. I think he's going to go. I think he has the best chance to win it right now rather than just wait, because it gives him a better shot. Who knows? But I mean, I'm looking at their lineup, and I think if you brought everybody back right now, they're only losing 1 starter for next year. So this Oklahoma State team is going to be absolutely loaded for years to come, especially with all the young guys.
And that's not counting NIL either or transfers. I mean, you don't think they're going in the portal after guys have a bad season and Taylor's like, hey, we're going to get you on the podium, if not the top of the podium. Dean Hamidi, great example. Did an All-American wins a national title.
Wyatt Hendrickson just trying to get over the hump, does it at Oklahoma State. So.
That one day, listen, Coach Taylor and staff, unbelievable job. I'm so impressed on what they've done so quick.
Yeah, no doubt, and I think they're only going to get better and better. So you'll have the return of the prominence of Oklahoma State if it's not back already. Malik Amine here with me on On3 Wrestling. Malik, good to talk to you, my man. What do you have coming up this weekend? Are we back in studio ahead of the next Friday Sunday duels?
No, I'm not. I'm actually going to Italy. Go skiing. I know, man. I got to clear my head out of wrestling, man, or I wouldn't be able to do this. I love wrestling a lot, but sometimes it's wrestling overload. But no, I'll be back in the studio in 2 weeks. So I'm gonna miss some big matches, unfortunately. But I'm gonna be paying attention from afar.
Well, of course, we can never stay away, even if we are overseas. So enjoy Italy, my man. Good to talk to you as always. We'll be circling back around with you ahead of the postseason. And again, great stuff as always. And be sure to check Malik Amine on his social media channels. And of course, check him out on Big Ten Network ahead of those Friday night duels in college wrestling on BTN.
Good to have you. Good to be on, Nick. I appreciate you, brother.